Not many things in Dragon Ball Z gave me nightmares. This gave me nightmares. Or at least its first form did. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, today's topic is concerning the last DBZ movie we got in the original era of the show. This would be our last cinematic experience of Dragon Ball Z for about a good 17 years or so, with the likes of Beerus and Whis breaking that streak of nothingness in 2013 and ushering in a brand new era for Dragon Ball. So, what helped cap off the previous experience back in the mid-90s? Well, it was none other than a Godzilla-like monster, or more better known in the community, a kaiju. A straight up, no-nonsense kaiju. If you've been watching the channel for the past couple of months, you might have noticed that we've been going through a bit of a spate of renovation for various Dragon Ball movie villains that have actually been mooted for a possible and potential revival in the form of a movie of Dragon Ball or part of a potential new series whenever Toei gets his act together. Either way, the idea of being integrated into the main timeline has been touted for one of the classic baddies like Cooler, Janemba, and of course Bojack, with them also being used in Dragon Ball FighterZ, the video game, Super Dragon Ball Heroes, the card game and the promotional anime and the like, as well as other mediums. There are other ways in the form of games, cards and non-mainstream media for these characters to remain relevant and within the public consciousness so you don't forget about them and you think, man, that Bojack is cool. He's not like a horse though. And yet, this villain we're talking about today and his master, not so much. Can you remember the name of this kaiju boss's pop quiz? Can you remember the name of this kaiju's boss without looking it up on Wikipedia? Now, be honest. Okay, let me know whether you can actually remember without looking up in the poll up top. I would really appreciate you taking part of this poll as a telling sign that this pair is quite underrated and needs to be revived. Now here's another question to you, the viewer. Do you like giant monsters? Huh? Do you like giant monsters dunking on other giant monsters? Yeah, I thought so. They've always been popular to various peoples across the globe. So yeah, who doesn't like a simple story of one thing wailing on another thing? Well, maybe movie critics don't, but you know, they don't understand, man. They don't get the kaiju life. But you know who did get it and then ran with it? Mitsuo Hashimoto in 1995's Dragon Ball Z Wrath of the Dragon with its giant monster Hirudegarn. Mr. Hashimoto was the director of said movie, having gotten previous experience directing other DBZ movies like Lord Slug and Cooler's Revenge, and of course the unforgettable classic Goku's Traffic Safety from 1988. Actually, maybe we'll do a video on that another time. Leave me a comment if you'd be curious to hear about that old chestnut. Hashimoto's style is quite noticeable, especially in Cooler's Revenge for being quite striking and very tense. For example, there is an establishing shot of Cooler when Goku claps eyes on him and it's just a camera zoom, but it's animated. This could have been done with just a simple zoom, but the fact it's animated just makes this just all the more significant. This is Goku meeting the brother of the guy he had just fought, Frieza, and it's not going to be easy. All conveyed in one shot. Nice. So despite these amazing shots being witnessed, the last DBZ movie before the new age of Dragon Ball Z/Super has often been overlooked. Wrath of the Dragon, the 13th movie to be labelled as a Dragon Ball Z movie, is one of those Dragon Ball experiences that are often omitted and forgotten when we discuss the entire catalogue of the forms of the media. I suppose when you look at the basic structure, it isn't exactly very perilous, nor is it placed within the realms of the arcs in general. You pretty much only remember it for one of the most visually stunning and iconic attacks that Goku's ever shown. And not only that, he didn't steal it! Now that's something that should be screamed on the tops of buildings! Goku didn't steal a technique! The movie itself, though, has a lot of charm to it, despite its mediocre legacy. It's not flawless by any means. Hoi, Hirudegarn's master, is not exactly the most standout bad guy out there. He's mainly like a cross between Kochin from World's Strongest, a bit of Barbady as well for good measure, and a dash of Pilaf as well. He's a blend of characters from the past which were done better in their full guises. He's just like a hash of multiple characters, whereas Hoi was just a carrier. And also, hidden monster within a vessel that is suddenly let loose upon the world. Yeah, that's smelling a lot like Boo right now to me. And I thought Janemba was the only Boo clone now that I think about it. It was neat that Goku couldn't open it by hitting a box real hard though. But there is something else unique about it, as the main bad guy isn't really the true focus of the story. Now what do you mean, Masako? We are focusing on a new supporting character, which has been retroactively included to have something to do with Kid Trunks and his sword, and gives the kid something that isn't entirely dependent on being around Goten for once. I'm sorry, but I have to be honest. Trunks needs to do stuff on his own sometimes. And that character that I'm talking about is the likes of Tapion. Ah yes, Chrono Trigger references strike once more. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but you know the similarities are going to be coming flooding in once you witness this guy. In fact, you might even be able to say that there's a whiff of Ocarina of Time about this character, you know, since the game would have been in development at the time, and they probably would have known about it in the underworld of Nintendo and stuff like that, as well as the fact that there is an ocarina-like instrument in the actual movie. This idea of having a character who isn't the main focus of the movie is something that didn't really happen again until the likes of Chilai and Lemmo in Dragon Ball Super Broly circa 2018. Now you could count the likes of Beerus, kinda, but he was considered to be a bad guy of sorts at the time of the movie's release. We had no idea back then that this kitty cat was going to stick around. Now although we have touched upon this guy, we will not go into too much more detail about Tapion, since we have already discussed him on a few occasions in past videos, so we'll leave it at that though. But we haven't really talked about the big bad himself, of course, Hirudegarn, and his master Hoi. I've got to clarify that for the grander scheme of things for the purposes of this video. On the surface, there isn't anything personality-wise to go by. I mean, this guy is just a straight-up monster. Now let's remind ourselves of the basic blurb for him. Hirudegarn was a demon god who placed his spectral body into a statue on planet Konats. He would watch over planet Konats and purify people's hearts, sucking up evil ki. However, sorcerers of the Kashvar race transformed him into a phantom margin, and he broke free from the statue and began rampaging. Interesting. You could say that this is just the idea of the soul cleansing machine from Fusion Reborn, but now in the form of demonic entity that was created out of its own free will. You know, it didn't have a say in the matter. This being wasn't made out of malice or anything, or it didn't just exist. It was just the embodiment of negative emotions and a bunch of wizards who wanted to make a really scary monster to terrify people. So he was just a byproduct of other people's malice, you know? Kind of feel sorry for Hirudegarn in a way. He wasn't asked to be born. Now, although he is completely devoid of any personality, he is pretty unique amongst Dragon Ball villains. Even though our heroes had to fight multiple giant opponents before, there is something different about Hirudegarn. Just look at his design. I mean, come on, it's terrifying. I'm serious. I'm not trying to hype this up or anything. The first time I saw this original version of Hirudegarn, I was really scared by it. It's a muscly and veiny kaiju with a skull for a head, which does nothing but stomp on stuff and smash things. It's unstoppable. You should never be able to forget that form. Yet we as a collective sort of have. His name is derived from the movie's co-producer, Seiichi Hiruta. Ah yes, name puns sticking to the old tried and tested formula then. Daring today, aren't we? Mr. Hiruta was unhappy with the original design for the creature, which was being formulated in the pre-production stages, because Mr. Hashimoto, the movie's director, was also a very good storyboard artist. After he demanded that they redesign the character, his jaw dropped when he saw the new design. Understandably so. The sound effect for a jaw dropping in Japanese is "gan." So they therefore named the character Hirudegarn, jaw dropping Mr. Hiruta. This was something we managed to source from the likes of Daizenshuu 6 right here. Yes, this is right. I have a copy of this for once. Here's the page that description's probably on right here, you know. This is history, people. Now, although his transformed state may slightly resemble a certain other Bugman from the Dragon Ball series, he still has that presence somewhat. Although, I'm gonna be honest here, he has less of a visual impact because of that somewhat derivative connection. He's less scary to me. Also, unlike most gigantic enemies the Dragon Team have had to battle, Hirudegarn is gigantic from the start, and after he crushes his master's knockoff Babidi Hoi, he can now focus freely on destruction. We saw that after the likes of Kochin being tossed aside by Dr. Wheelo as well towards the end of the World's Strongest movie. You know, the copying just keeps on continuing. We've talked about the character in general long enough. How would we bring him into the mix like we've done before? Frankly, After we talked about Bojack a couple of weeks back, this one is also a pretty easy retooling somewhat. But you see, the answer is staring us in the face. Well, it is if you look it up because Hirudegarn is just tall. The kaiju type of monster doesn't really need much more depth in order to be entertaining. It's obvious, really. All they need to do is smash stuff, look visually appealing, and let the director properly illustrate the carnage that they wreak among the populace, and you've got something pretty golden. Dealing with these kaiju should be more like dealing with a natural disaster, which they often represent, rather than just a regular martial arts encounter that we've seen many times before. It's kind of atypical for Dragon Ball, but as proven with Aniraza in Dragon Ball Super, who seems to also be kind of inspired by Hirudegarn's design, it may give characters a chance for a spectacular and unexpected team-up. For a modern setting, you could even make Hirudegarn a spacefaring entity, devouring planets after being awakened from a long slumber by something. You know what? We should actually up the ante even more, by taking away his master Hoi altogether. It would, in our own opinion, make Hirudegarn even more terrifying and show that there is no control over the beast. This is something you can't reason with. Moreover, an opponent like this cannot be simply punched out of existence. It would need the combined power of the likes of the Dragon Team, Broly, and even Frieza to even remotely have a chance of taking it down. He must seem to be untouchable from the start, and a certain rule needs to be established in order to stop Beerus and Whis from getting involved and just nuking him instantly. Maybe it could be something comedic, something that's in keeping with the world of Toriyama. You know, like Beerus and Whis get a really bad stomachache after eating some off food on a planet somewhere. Hirudegarn's relationship with Broly might be pretty interesting actually, as Broly is used to being around gigantic beasts. Perhaps, if we decide to go against our own initial idea of making Hirudegarn simply a beast, the two might actually be able to find, Broly and Hirudegarn, an understanding of sorts. Or maybe if we stay true to our evil, mindless beast mindset, we could find a way for Ba to aid against the monster if our heroes fought him on Vampa. Maybe the one-eared monster would fall trying to protect his friend. Now imagine the power boost that Broly would get if Ba were to fall. Maybe that would give him a new ability to, let's say, transform into an Ozaru without the use of a tail. I mean, you know what's cooler than one giant monster? Two giant monsters fighting each other and having an Ozaru fighting Hirudegarn. It could greatly increase the chances of our heroes in that uneven fight. In summary, the entire Hirudegarn movie should focus around stopping the beast, with the occasional bit of humor to balance it out a little more, and release some of the tension that would inevitably build up. It would be too exhausting otherwise. The Broly movie had 40 minutes of non-stop action, and to be honest, I was really tired just watching it. It's still Dragon Ball though. We don't want to make this overly gritty so that it doesn't feel like the original property would be anymore. You know, otherwise it's just not true to itself. But at the same time, it would be really awesome to turn that one giant fight with the monster in the original movie into a massive pit of sparring, with even minor characters trying their best to aid against the creature. Having the likes of Bulma, Videl, Jocko, and Hercule providing aerial support would be really cool. Hirudegarn himself is not really a character, he's a narrative tool that could help bring characters together, and we think that his lack of personality would greatly help the fan service regarding a team-up. And while the Tournament of Power was advertised as the ultimate team-up as it were, some characters did honestly more than others. As to how the monster should be defeated, it should be one last desperate combined effort. Not just a single gimmicky punch, no matter how cool it looks. I think this would add to the integrity of Universe 7 as a whole. This is how we believe Hirudegarn should be rebooted in our honest opinion. Stay tuned for more characters, as the next episode might surprise you. There is one particular fan favourite character that has been widely discussed lately, and we feel that it would be a missed opportunity not to use them or discuss their possible reappearance. Stay tuned for the next installment of this series in just 2 weeks. So what do you guys think? Would these changes to Hirudegarn make this movie baddie more memorable in your eyes? And what other villains would you like us to modify next? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!